Finance and Campus Planning Buildings and Grounds. Chair Ison, will you please convene that committee for item 2?
Thank you, Chair Day. This is a meeting of the Joint Committees on Finance and Campus Planning Buildings and Grounds. Would it please come to order? Because of the schedules of our presenters and our public speakers, we're going to have a slight rearrangement of the agenda. First, we have 2 items on the agenda, the consent item and the discussion item. We're going to start with the staff report on the discussion item, item 2. Then we will hear from our public speakers. Then we will go back to the consent agenda for determination and to the discussion agenda item for action. So can we begin then with the staff report? We have 6 presenters with respect to this report. The item is going to be presented by Steve Relier, Executive Vice Chancellor, Chief Financial Officer, by President Adela de la Torre of San Diego State, by the Mayor of San Diego, Kevin Faulkner, by Vice San Juan, Assistant Vice Chancellor, Tom McCarran, Senior Vice President for the SDSU Mission Valley Development, and Robert Eaton, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Financing, Treasury, and Risk Management. Steve, would you please begin?
Thank you, Chair Eisen. Now, as we've shared with the board in prior meetings, we've been pursuing an unprecedented opportunity to expand and transform San Diego State University through the potential acquisition and development of 135 acres in Mission Valley in San Diego. At our last board meeting in November, a detailed update was provided on the proposed project. So today, for your consideration, we are presenting a number of actions related to the acquisition and development of the Mission Valley site. The actions we are recommending today include the certification of the final environmental impact report, approval of the new campus master plan, authorization to the Chancellor to execute a purchase and sale agreement with the City of San Diego consistent with the terms noted in the resolution, approval to amend the capital outlay program to add the real property acquisition and site development project, and approval of the financing of the project. As negotiations are still occurring with the City of San Diego on the terms of the purchase and sale agreement, your approval today will authorize the Chancellor to execute the agreement with the concurrence of Chair Adam Day that the terms do not substantially deviate from those presented to the Board of Trustees today. After we went to print with this board agenda item, the campus received a draft purchase and sale agreement from the City of San Diego, and yesterday, campus personnel participated in a City Council hearing in review of that draft agreement. We are still evaluating the draft purchase and sale agreement and will respond to the City once that evaluation has been completed. I now turn the presentation over to President Adela de la Torre, who will provide an update to her November report and share with you why this project will be so transformative to the campus. President de la Torre.
Thank you, Executive Vice Chancellor Relier. This day has been one we have been eagerly awaiting for quite some time. It is a culmination of years of work by SDSU and CSU staff, the City of San Diego, and the many supporters of SDSU Mission Valley who recognize this as an invaluable opportunity for SDSU to expand and better serve its academic mission and the community. SDSU Mission Valley will provide the university and the CSU with a space to grow enrollment in a location where the demand already exists. SDSU has averaged an unprecedented more than 90,000 undergraduate applications over the past 3 years. It will also help us expand our research and innovation programs. SDSU is recognized as a national example for our teacher-scholar model, leveraging our research enterprise for the benefit of all students, including undergraduates. We will add much-needed housing for students, faculty, staff, and the general community at a time when there is a critical shortage of housing. We're developing a model that will support new faculty, students with families, and graduate students, while also providing 460 units of income-qualified affordable housing for the most vulnerable populations. Finally, our plan also focuses on a commitment to sustainability and the environment, integrating the site's natural features, particularly the San Diego River. We will create a long-awaited regional community river park with approximately 80 acres of parks and open space, and are setting high standards for sustainability throughout the development. Our team has worked diligently to ensure the community has been involved in the planning process, from neighborhood planning groups to environmental organizations to our local Kumeyaay tribes. The project will further SDSU's relationship with the community and enhance the economic development of the San Diego region. At this time, I want to introduce the Mayor of San Diego, Kevin Faulkner, who has been a critical partner in helping us get to this day. He is also a San Diego State alumnus and former Associated Student President. Mayor Faulkner?
Well, thank you, President Delatorre. Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to come and have say a couple of brief remarks about a project that I feel so strongly about, passionately about, and the city feels so supportive of. And Chairman Day, thank you for your service and all members of the Board of Trustees. I too have my CSU story as somebody who was fortunate to attend San Diego State in the world-class education opportunity it afforded me, a kid from Oxnard, California. When I went down to San Diego State, I knew absolutely no one. And to have that world-class, as I said, opportunity, to have the experience that I had with associated students and the lessons that were afforded me there, it was absolutely so formative of my life. And that part of the, as I think the chancellor was getting to, that CSU story that makes a huge difference for so many Californians. I count myself proudly as one of them. When I was last before this board was just about 30 years ago, when I was in Associated Students and was here seeking the approval for the Viejas Arena, and what that meant, what that was going to mean to the university in terms of transforming to be a game changer, not just for the university, but for the entire community as well. And with the board's approval, and I think what all of us have seen, what that is to, from sold out basketball games to concerts, community events, and people have never even set foot on campus know how important that arena is to who we are as San Diegans. It helps bring people together. And it is absolutely this kind of transformational potential that President Delatorre was just getting to in her opening remarks as we move forward collectively to expand our great university at San Diego State into Mission Valley. We are on the cusp of, as you can see up there on the slide, of so many great features. A multi-use stadium, a world-class river park for students and the community to enjoy. Of course, a world-class education and research hub that ensures that the legacy and that proud heritage of San Diego State continues for generations. This is a transformative project. Nothing of this size and scale is easy. And to have the public support when San Diegans went to the ballot box overwhelmingly to say this is what we want to see for future generations, I think bodes well for the work that we have to do to get this across the finish line. Today, your help and support will be a huge step in bringing this vision to life. This agreement has the absolute potential to invest in our innovation economy, of which we are so proud of in San Diego, so we can continue on that world-class research, those excellent jobs, and solve so many of the issues of the day. It is going to also create thousands of new, and I would say desperately needed, housing units at a time when they are in such short supply in the city of San Diego. We'll create the retail space, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, because I'm very excited about it, a world-class river park that generations of San Diegans and families throughout California will be able to come down and enjoy. Adopting a fair and equitable proposal that you have in front of you is a key requirement of Measure G that voters approved back just a year ago. And it's going to ensure that the public can be confident that both the city and the university are using this public property wisely and are going to be stewards of it for decades and decades to come. I am strongly supportive of the principles that are outlined in the university's offer, and I ask for your support before the items today. And in conclusion, again, I want to thank all of the representatives of the board. Thank you for your service to our state and making the CSU such a flagship university that it is. It doesn't happen by accident. And I also want to conclude by thanking President Delatorre, who, since she has arrived on the scene, has been phenomenal in terms of her interaction all across the sphere and the spectrum of San Diego. And so, President Delatorre, thank you for your energy. Thank you for your tenacity. as I said before, a project of this size and scale, to have the public support, the community support, political across the spectrum support, I think bodes well for bringing this to a conclusion. And again, something that all of us in this room, as we look back in years to come, will be extremely proud of. I'm proud of it. I'm fortunate for the opportunity today to share those remarks with you. Again, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Faulkner. Your continued support and leadership is greatly appreciated, and we're so proud to call you an SDSU and Cal State alumnus. At this time, I will turn it to Assistant Vice Chancellor Vi San Juan to continue with the presentation.
Thank you, President De La Torre and Mayor Faulkner, for setting the vision for the site and benefits of the proposed acquisition. The proposed Mission Valley site is located about 4 miles west of the main campus and can be directly accessed by the Metropolitan Transit System Green Line trolley. This slide indicates the parcels related to the proposed acquisition. The purchase and sale agreement includes the 135 acres to be purchased by the California State University in blue and the parcel to the east in green, the thin sliver, running along Murphy Creek. The parcel shaded in a lighter green, almost tan, to the south of the map is the 34-acre River Park property to be retained by the city, but improved, operated, and maintained by the campus. This next slide shows the proposed land uses for the San Diego State University Mission Valley campus. To the south of the site is the San Diego River and Interstate 8, and to the east is Interstate 15. The north is bordered by Friars Road. The master plan has been designed in keeping with the provisions of the ballot initiative that describe the redevelopment and reuse of the site in consideration of the city planning documents such as the Mission Valley Community Plan Update and potential expansion of the MTS transit system. When supported by increases in state funding, the plan will accommodate 15,000 full-time equivalent students based on classroom and laboratory capacity. To the east of the site, shown in blue, is the area proposed for 4,600 units of housing for the campus community of faculty, staff, graduate, and undergraduate students, as well as the local community. The campus has proposed up to 10% or 460 units to provide affordable housing. To the west of the site, starting from the north in purple, is the proposed 400-unit hotel and conference space. Just south of the hotel in red is the 35,000 seat capacity stadium that will replace the aging SDCCU stadium, which is in disrepair. The academic and research facilities are shown in gold. The street separating the housing from the academic facilities is envisioned as a focal promenade activated by community serving retail on the ground floor. To the west of the stadium are 2 active recreation fields, which will double as parking for stadium events in turquoise. Additional parking of 5,000 spaces is planned below the gold academic and research campus space planned to the south of the stadium. Parking for the housing will be incorporated into the individual developments. With access to the trolley, the campus has planned the site as bike and pedestrian friendly, consistent with the goals of the city to reduce the use of single rider vehicles to campus. With the site prone to flooding, significant efforts have been made to protect the proposed development by raising the development plane above the 100-year flood level, as well as identifying stormwater retention basins to treat stormwater runoff before it enters the San Diego River. The park areas to the south and east of the site are shown in green, with the 34-acre city-owned park to the south. In compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act, the campus completed a 60-day public review of the draft environmental impact report in keeping with Measure G. The final environmental impact report includes the comments received and the campus responses to the comments. Attachment A to the agenda item endeavors to summarize the comments from the state and local agencies, tribal representatives, organizations, as well as the public. One of the organizations, Promise Posterity, is noted in Attachment A as one of the 15 organizations providing comment, but the summary of their comments were inadvertently omitted. A revision to Attachment A has been prepared and is proposed to be posted to correct this oversight. Promise Posterity's full comments and CSU's response are fully contained in the final environmental impact report. The comments were, Promise Posterity is an organization concerned with the protection and preservation of the environment in light of the global climate crisis. They were concerned about adverse impacts on both biological and human systems, and that with global warming, that flood hazards will only worsen. The campus has taken efforts with the design to reduce the impervious surface runoff that would contaminate the San Diego River, and they have taken steps to reduce and eliminate potential water quality impacts. The final environmental impact report also identifies the alternatives considered and the mitigation measures both on-site and off-site to reduce the impact of the master plan, including the site development and other near-term projects like the academic facilities, stadium, and housing units. Our consultants have found that even with mitigation measures, the project will result in unavoidable significant impacts. These include impacts to traffic, air quality, noise, historic resources, population, and housing, and public services. As relates to traffic, the campus has negotiated with the city and come to agreement on mitigation measures, as well as a number of community benefit improvements that go beyond the project's required mitigation. The estimated amount for mitigation is approximately $40 million, primarily related to improvements on roadways under the jurisdiction of the City of San Diego and Caltrans. The proposed board resolution includes the adoption of the findings of fact that summarizes the information in the final environmental impact report, adopts the mitigation and monitoring and reporting program, and proposes adoption of the statement of overriding consideration that weighs the education, research, economic, social, technological, and other benefits of the master plan against its unavoidable environmental risks when determining to approve the master plan. So how the board weighs the risks versus the benefits. The statement of overriding consideration concludes the benefits of the project to the California State University outweigh the remaining significant and unavoidable environmental impacts. The board is also asked to amend the 2020-21 capital outlay program to include the proposed land acquisition and site development project. The total cost is estimated at $350 million for the acquisition and partial development of the site. The acquisition is estimated at $87.7 million, and the hard costs of site development at about $170 million. This includes all the site rough grading, park and open spaces, and mitigation costs of the $40 million. The remainder of the balance are for soft costs for design fees, project management, permitting, and project contingency. I'll now turn the presentation over to Senior Vice President Tom McCarron to provide an update on the negotiations on the purchase and sale agreement.
Thank you, Vi. We have been working with our team of advisors and legal counsel to negotiate with the city for the last year. The terms of our offer to the City of San Diego include a proposed purchase price of $87.7 million after negotiation on the appraised value, inclusive of an inflation adjustment from 2017 on a portion of the site. The amount of land is approximately 135 acres of the existing stadium site for the new SDSU Mission Valley campus. SDSU will construct and maintain 34 acres of River Park improvements, and that property will be retained by the city. The River Park must be completed within 7 years of the execution of the purchase and sale agreement, as required by Measure G, enabling the sale to the university. The offer provides that SDSU will assume operation of the existing stadium at the close of escrow, and SDSU will fund construction of the city's future Fenton Parkway Bridge. While the bridge is not required by the EIR, the bridge will provide access and value to the campus. In addition, we will commit that 10% of all housing units developed on the site will be dedicated to affordable housing. As Vi mentioned, the estimated cost for the purchase, site infrastructure, and River Park construction is $350 million. Construction of the various components of the project is planned to occur over the next 15 years, with final build-out scheduled for 2037. As with any schedule of this duration, it will be subject to changes in the needs of SDSU and other factors, but the current plan is as outlined on this slide. We'll wait for the slide. Thank you. The multi-use stadium will be completed in summer 2022. As mentioned earlier, the real property acquisition, site development project, and river park will be completed in fall 2023. Other elements of the project will have phase starting and completion dates, but the development of the vertical improvements will be able to move forward at the end of 2023. Build-out of residential housing for faculty, staff, graduates, and undergraduate, and local community is scheduled to start in July 2023, with the initial phase being completed in 2025 and continuing through 2032. Construction of facilities for educational research, entrepreneurial, and technology programs will begin in 2023, with the first phase opening in 2026. Construction of additional phases will continue through 2037. Hotel and conference space for campus use, conferences, programs, and community uses will be built starting in July 2025 and finishing up in July 2027. Campus and neighborhood serving retail will be developed concurrently during the initial stages of both the residential and the academic projects. I'll turn it over to Assistant Vice Chancellor Robert Eaton to describe the financing structure. Robert.
Thank you, Tom. The $350 million cost of the project will be funded from three sources. The first is system-wide revenue bonds and/or related debt instruments in the amount of $250 million to be supported by project revenues as well as campus non-operating and auxiliary revenues. Secondly, system-wide revenue bonds and/or related debt instruments in the amount of $60 million to be supported by system revenues. And then third, campus and auxiliary reserves of $40 million, including additional financing and issuance costs, which will be funded from debt proceeds. The total not to exceed amount requested is $317 million. The long-term source of repayment for the $250 million in system-wide revenue bonds supported by project and campus non-operating revenues will come from ground lease revenue from public-private partnerships, or P3 development of the housing, retail, hospitality, and research and innovation components. However, because the site needs to be acquired and the infrastructure prepared before vertical development can begin, revenues from P3 projects are not expected to begin materializing until 2023 and will not reach full development until 2037. In the meantime, approximately $17.2 million of other campus non-operating revenue and auxiliary revenue streams will be used to meet the annual debt service requirements. As P3 projects come online, the campus resources will be supplanted by the P3 revenues until the campus revenues are no longer required and annual debt service is being fully paid by P3 revenues. In addition, as P3 revenues grow beyond those levels required to meet debt service requirements, excess revenues will be available to meet general campus operating needs and replenish campus resources that were utilized to meet earlier debt service payments. The source of repayment for the system-wide revenue bonds supported by system revenues will be existing system cash flow allocated for capital financing. Now, overall, in order to match the expected cash flow generated by the public-private partnership projects, the debt will be structured as interest only for a number of years, most likely 15 to 20 years, with principal payments due in later years. The final structure of the principal payments will be determined at the time of debt issuance, depending upon market conditions, but could include bullet maturities. Following the interest-only period, the campus will begin setting aside public-private partnership revenues in excess of the interest payments in amounts that will allow for full repayment of all debt when principal comes due. At present, the financial plan calls for the full repayment of the debt within 35 years. However, to increase structuring flexibility, this item does request authorization to issue the debt for as long as 40 years. The structure will also call for taxable debt due to the levels of private use expected to be generated by the public-private partnership developments and the stadium. Based upon the available campus and system revenues, the debt service coverage for the interest-only period of the debt is forecast to be 1.40, which exceeds the CSU minimum benchmark of 1.10, and exceeding is good. As I noted a moment ago, the final schedule of principal payments will not be determined until the debt is issued. However, debt service coverages have been analyzed under a number of different scenarios and demonstrate the ability to pay off the debt. As an example, under a conservative scenario where the principal payments are made over a 14-year period from 2042 through 2055, the debt service coverage ratio starts at 1.08 and increases to 1.46, levels that compare favorably to the CSU benchmark of 1.10. When combining these project revenue streams with 2018-2019 actuals for other campus pledged revenue programs, the campus's overall net revenue debt service coverage for the first year of the interest-only period is projected to be 1.43, which exceeds the CSU campus benchmark of 1.35. With respect to the campus's overall net revenue debt service coverage when principal repayment begins, the debt service coverage ratios compare favorably to the CSU campus benchmark of 1.35 under different scenarios and assuming conservative growth assumptions for the other campus pledge revenue programs. In summary, the forecasted debt service coverage ratios look good. Let me now turn the presentation back over to Executive Vice Chancellor Rallier for some closing thoughts.
Thank you, Robert. The progress that's been made to date on this significant project is the result of substantial effort and teamwork. I want to thank President Delatorre, the San Diego campus team, the Chancellor's Office staff, the City of San Diego staff, and our Trustee Advisory Committee for all of your ongoing work to keep this project on track and moving forward. And as we move forward, some key milestones include the following. In February, we're going to come back and our plans call for the San Diego City Council to approve the purchase and sale agreement. In March, the schematic design and financing for the stadium project will be brought forward to the Board of Trustees for their consideration. In the spring, the process to solicit and select public-private partnerships for the mixed-use development will begin, including conceptual approval for the board's consideration. As President Delatorre shared, this is a transformative project that will serve the university and our students for the next century. Chair Eisen, staff recommends approval of the actions presented in this item and are happy to answer any questions.
And apologies again for a little bit of disjointedness in this agenda, because I know many of you do have questions and we do need to have a full discussion of this item. But in fairness, if you can make a quick note to yourself, if you're anything like me, you won't remember 10 minutes from now what your question was. And we'll hear from the public speakers, and then we will return to our action items for discussion, full discussion. So let's then commence with our public speakers. We have something like 8 or 9 speakers. I'm going to read your names. Please come up and address the board for a minute. The first group of speakers are Leland Wessel, Martin Brenner, Austin Gent, Kay Durant. Mr. Wessel.
Hi, I'm Dr. Lee Wessel. I'm a physician at Student Health Services at San Diego State and a Unit 1 representative. I've been in practice with San Diego State for 26 years. And I wanted to bring something to your attention. In 2003, plans were made and approved by SDSU and the Chancellor's Office for a new Student Health Services building. It was to be 4 stories and 72,000 square feet. And in it would be housed primary care, urgent care, optometry, dentistry, pharmacy, radiology, clinical, and public health research suites. It was funded by a $20 million bond issue, and the students would pay that every semester they registered as a Student Health Services building fee. Dentistry and optometry were proposed as augmented services that were to be self-supporting by billing private insurance. Just note, please, that the dental suite was cost $2 million to outfit at the time in $2004. It was state-of-the-art and large enough to house 2 full-time practices within it. Fast forward to the present, Student Affairs and SDSU are closing optometry and dentistry at the end of February 2020 as they, quote, want to get out of the augmented services business, apparently with the blessing of the Chancellor's Office. The difficulty here is that the students have $2 million of the $20 million bond issue that they will be paying for another 15 years, and children that are 4 years old, future SDSU students, will be paying for a dental clinic that will be closed at the end of February. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wessel. Martin Brenner.
Martin Brenner, CSUEU Unit 9 Vice Chair. At the November meeting, I addressed this group on behalf of my staff union constituents, but also on behalf of the students, faculty, and the public that we are all here to serve. I want to express our concerns that the CSU has not been as responsible in stewarding this vital resource as we would like to see. At the campus level, our facilities are not presently maintained at the level that adequately meets our institution's mission and values. All too often, the infrastructure is not ideally suitable to its current utilization, reliable, sustainable, and in some cases presents risks to students, employees, and the public. Just like all of the individuals here today must do in their personal dealings, the CSU must not expand its reach and services while its existing core functions are not adequately supported and continue a trend toward degradation. It is not fair to compromise the quality of the education close to 500,000 students to allow the increased enrollment of a percentage more. Do we sacrifice the achievable levels of accessibility of disabled students, employees, and the public to our existing facilities and the mental and physical health of 500,000 to fund the enrollment of more students and the expansion of facilities to accommodate new programs? I fear that all too often we have taken a path to the latter. In summation, it is not optimal management to continue to grow and expand services while neglecting what exists now and the commitment we have to our existing students, employees, and the public we serve. What we ask is that you manage this resource with sustainability as a fundamental principle, that you commit on a continual basis the resources to ensure that existing infrastructure and program support does not take a backseat to the existing services beyond the resources of the system. Finally, we should never be reliant on bailouts such as bonds and one-time funding to meet the continuing needs of the institution. Sustainability needs to be a core value of this institution. It not only includes facilities, but also includes adequate staff support to maintain facilities and infrastructure, and an adequate mix of faculty, professionals, and lecturers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brenner. Mr. Gent.
Hello, I'm Austin Gent here on behalf of Promise Posterity. We understand the need for expansion to further support the education of your students. We get the need for an athletic stadium and facilities, for more available student housing, for academic buildings, communal venues, and recreational spaces. And we applaud all efforts to expand San Diego's rail system. However, we urge the board to reconsider certifying the final EIR at this time. We condemn the final EIR's inconsistencies regarding the site's environmental baseline, of its inadequate analyses of foreseeable off-site impacts, and of its lack of a good faith effort to fully disclose information on the existence and impacts to several endangered or threatened species that undeniably exist off-site downstream of the site at the San Diego River Channel. We disagree that the project's resulting benefits would outweigh significant and unavoidable impacts, and we believe the project would result in several irreparable consequences that severely threaten life, property, and the surrounding environment. Certifying the EIR in its current state would constitute a prejudicial abuse of discretion, and we urge the board to avoid this.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Gent. Apologies for mispronouncing your name. Kay Durant.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to come and speak with you. Turn it off. I'm the vice chair of the Mission Valley Planning Group. Our planning group has supported SDSU West Mission Valley since the ballot measure was proposed. We look forward to a vibrant addition to our community, the housing, the stadium, Go Aztecs. We fully support this. We have commented on the EIR, and we think this will be a good fit for San Diego, for SDSU, and our small part of the city of San Diego. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We now have speakers Elizabeth Levent, Kim Kilkenny, Steve Doyle, Ellen Gantz, and Christian Holt. Ms. Levent?
Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Leventhal, and I'm a proud alumni of the CSU system, where I graduated from CSU Chico, where I learned the values of community service and civic responsibility. I now proudly use those values in service to the community in which I now live in Mission Valley. I urge you to approve the funds for this campus expansion. Doing so will both expand the mission of the university as well as greatly improve the local community in which it will sit. It will help write a new story for both SDSU and Mission Valley, one that will change the landscape for students, residents, and visitors alike. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Leventhal. Kim Kilkenny. Can you turn your mic on, please? Thank you.
My name is Kim Kilkenny. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I have my CSU story. I'm a proud graduate of San Diego State after leaving the Central Valley in a small farm town that I never looked back on. I'm very grateful for the education I received through the university system, and I've had the opportunity to go back to the campus many times in the subsequent decades. And I'm saddened because it is clear to me that other students will not have the same opportunity that I had 50 years ago to attend San Diego State University, not because of lack of qualifications, but because of lack of space. That is why I, along with others, drafted the SDSU West initiative, and we're proud when it was approved by the voters so clearly 2 Novembers ago. I've monitored the implementation of the plan since then and watched carefully as the purchase agreement has been negotiated, the environmental documents have been prepared, and the CSU land plan has been proposed. I can tell you that the university system did an extraordinary job of working with the community, of working with the city, and working with the specialists to understand the site and to create a land plan that will benefit not only San Diego State University, but the city of San Diego and the state of California for decades to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Doyle.
Good morning. My name is Steve Doyle. I too am a member of the Friends of San Diego State. I'll put the initiative in front of you today. The importance of Mission Valley is understated 100-fold. The opportunity to increase the student capacity by 15,000 students is something that San Diego is longing for. The ability of the campus community to grow by 50% with innovation and technology issues and educational facilities is what the city is looking for, what San Diego State is looking for. The opportunity to house faculty, staff, grad students, and affordable housing in San Diego is in desperate need. Recreational facilities like the 34-acre River Park not only offer a place for you to go and kick a ball around or have a snack with your kids, it also provides educational and research opportunities. Speaking as a grad of the College of Engineering, I know we're doing a lot of studies on the river already, and this would only increase our opportunities. So for all those reasons, I recommend your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Guntz.
Hello, my name is Alan Gantz. I'm the Department Chair of Geological and Environmental Sciences at San Diego State University. And to echo on what you've heard already from some of our speakers, the acquisition of SDSU West Mission Valley provides an unprecedented opportunity for us to enhance our research and our community outreach, especially when we consider the San Diego River Park. The 80 acres that are proposed to be a community garden and area for recreation also can play a prime role in research and outreach on the areas that are directly impacted by the construction of the proposed project. So it's been highlighted in the EIR that there's enhanced flooding and there's impact to endangered species. The research capacity that SDSU has for engaging with the landscape, engaging with the ecology, engaging with the archaeology of the site, to be able to monitor it, we can even further lessen those impacts by bringing to bear the full capacity of the university. So I would encourage you to support SDSU West Mission Valley. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Christian Holt.
Hello, my name is Christian Holt. I'm a senior from the East Bay studying kinesiology with an emphasis in pre-physical therapy, and I'm also pre-med. I currently hold various leadership positions on campus, including serving on the board of directors of Associated Students, serving as a resident advisor in the residence halls, and serving on various committees within the university. I spoke at the San Diego City Council earlier in this process, and I'm here to speak on behalf of students and support SDSU's Mission Valley Environmental Impact Report. The campus plan of 15,000 students for expansion and enrollment, and the overall financing for the Mission Valley expansion. Students have been involved in all aspects of the Mission Valley project planning, but have been especially involved in the environmentally sustainable elements of the project. We are pleased with the efforts to make the project more environmentally sustainable and note that the EIR is the minimum commitment to sustainability, but we will continue to maximize our efforts towards environmental sustainability. A sustainable project is important and saves energy and waste in the long run. With proper planning, the investment into sustainability is reasonable and the payoffs are substantial for climate and financial viability. As a student, I'm excited that this project will help provide more opportunities for students to attend SDSU, to achieve our goals of higher education, provide low-income housing opportunities, and to make a more environmentally sustainable community as a whole. The SDSU has given me many opportunities to grow as a person, a leader, and as a professional. I want that for the future students as well. We hope the trustees will take into consideration the great benefit SDSU and this project will have to San Diego and the entire CSU system. And we hope you agree to moving forward with this project that will impact the lives of students at our university and will inspire students within the Cal State University as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holton. Thank you to all the speakers and especially for wading through the staff report before you had an opportunity to address us. We appreciate it very much. All right, so back to our agenda. Let's move quickly through action item 1, which is the approval of the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists solely of the approval of the minutes of the November 19th meeting.
So
Are
moved.
there all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Action item 2. Item 2. We've heard the staff report. I hope you've got your slides ready to put back up for us as we need them. Questions, discussion regarding this item? Trustee Carney?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to congratulate all the people who've been involved in putting this project together. It's very complicated, and the level of expertise has just been remarkable. So thank you, Chancellor's Office, people from San Diego State, and the consultants. It's been very impressive. So, Assistant Vice Chancellor Eaton, I have a question for you about the system-wide revenue bonds. When do you expect to go to market with these?
We're targeting a summer sale, July of this year.
And will you at least come back to the members of the task force with the terms of those bonds and a comparison to what we saw in the projections? Because, you know, there are various scenarios here, and how the overall financing plays out depends on the terms on which the bonds are sold. So if we could have a report on that, that would be
Yes,
useful.
we will report on that, not only to the Oversight Advisory Committee, but we also, as a general practice, we have an annual report on debt issuance, so we'll report then to the full body, but we will certainly report out as quickly as possible on that to the board. Yes.
Thank you. And my other concern is this: when San Diego State comes back with the conceptual approval for the residential units and the format for the P3 proposals for those, I would like to see that discussed in the context of the campus plan for affordable student housing. My understanding is that those plans the preliminary plans were submitted to the Chancellor's office last week. And so, I mean, this is related to the bond issue in March, but, you know, I think we need to see the overall plan for the campus on affordable housing when we get to these P3s. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Taylor?
Thank you, Chair Eisen. I want to appreciate the work of the staff on the task force. Myself, Trustee McGorry, and Trustee Carney learned a couple of lessons. One is when Adam Day calls and says, "Hey, this won't take too much time." You want to say, well, because there were several meetings, discussions, in-person strategy working sessions, and I think the finance plan has been appropriately massaged to appropriately give us enough flexibility, but also insulate us from undue risk. And so, congratulations to the team. I do share Trustee Carney's point, though, about how our student housing plan will fit into this long term. Chancellor White this morning said the cost of housing is an existential threat to many of our campuses. He's 100% right on that. And here's a chance for San Diego State, at least, to really make a dent in providing affordable housing for our undergraduates. And I hope you will take that to heart and bring us back your plans. And again, lastly, thanks to Jack for chairing this effort. You and Adela have gone a long way to improving our relationship with the city of San Diego, and I think that should not go unnoticed. So kudos to both of you.
Thank you. Chair Day?
Thank you, Chair Eisen, and I will keep my comments brief and have one or two questions. First, I'd like to start with thanks as well. This really started with, and I think it's important for the board and the public to remember that this started with Trustee McGrory and two of our speakers, Mr. Doyle, Mr. Kilkenny, along with others who were the spark and had the vision. So I want to thank them personally. I want to thank the voters of San Diego for supporting the measure overwhelmingly. I'd like to thank this board for endorsing the measure this many months ago. Some of you may not recall that, but it was the first time we endorsed a local land use measure because of the importance that it has on one of our most important institutions and the educational success of the students who go there. And then since all of that occurred, I'd like to thank the Chancellor and the working group and staff, Steve, Vi, there's too many to name, all of you, along with President De La Torre and your staff. It's an understatement to say these things don't happen by accident and they happen and they don't happen overnight. This is truly yeoman's work, and it's been thousands and thousands of hours, in public hearings at community groups and committees and city council meetings alone. You can't even begin to realize how much time has been invested, and we're still not at the finish line. But with today's staff recommendation, this will be a huge milestone for the campus and for the city and for the entire region of San Diego for all of the reasons that have been mentioned before. But we are providing a 50% increase in educational and instructional opportunities for students to attend San Diego State University. That in and of itself is a worthwhile goal, but it's that plus more. I mean, the creation of a research and innovation district to solve the problems of today and the future, the creation of thousands of jobs, not just temporary construction jobs, but permanent jobs in this region, high-paying jobs. We of course have the construction of vitally needed housing for faculty, for staff, and for students, and many of them will be affordable. That's just going to be a huge relief valve for the community of San Diego, and there's so many more points I could speak to, but the last I would like to highlight is the River Valley. For those of you who haven't been here to the site, the San Diego River runs right through it, as the river runs through it. And wearing my other hat as the CAO for the Sycuan tribe, before there was an Interstate 8, 10,000, 20,000 years ago, this was the Kumeyaay Highway. The river was the linkage between the oceans and the mountains for the Native Americans, and it's still recognized today. And through this development, and I want to especially thank President De La Torre and her team because of the amount of time and respect that you've shown with all of the Kumeyaay tribes. Sycuan is just one of 13 tribes, but all of the interest and concern you've expressed and sensitivity to how to carefully protect and restore and also open up in the right way this river valley to the public, which will be a gem for generations to come. So for all of those reasons, I highly encourage the committee members to support today's action. This is going to be a huge shot in the arm for San Diego and San Diego State. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, observations from these committee members? I want to add my thoughts about the River Park. I once heard a brilliant discussion about how Central Park in New York was really the original People's Park. It was so different from what had gone before, and it became almost an engine of democracy in the way that it was set up. And this discussion of River Park really gives me a lot of hope that this can be a similar sort of avenue for all peoples to come together in San Diego. I'm really excited about that prospect. This is an action item, but it's an approval of several different actions. Hopefully all of the committee members are clear on what they are. Certification of the final environmental impact report, approval of the Mission Valley Campus Master Plan, authorization to the chancellor to execute the purchase and sale agreement within parameters, approval to amend the capital outlay program, and approval to issue trustees of the CSU system-wide revenue bonds, et cetera. So now that I've enumerated them, are there any other questions or comments? Or are we ready for a vote? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Abstentions? The action item passes. And that, Chair Day, concludes the business of the Joint Committees on Finance and Campus Planning, Buildings and Grounds.
Thank you, Chair Eisen. We will now adjourn for lunch. Board members, we will adjourn into closed session at 12:15. And we will reconvene in public at 1 o'clock, at which time we will get back in order and take the remaining items on institutional advancement, and then collective bargaining, and then to government relations.